Everyone to episode 5 of Data Science and AI Weekly. My name is Manav. I'm your host for this episode, and let's do the honors. If you have not already watched the first 4 episodes, and if you have not listened to the first 4 episodes, I would highly recommend you to do that first. And once you're done that, come back to this episode. This is episode number 5. In this episode, what we are going to cover is what do data science interviews look like. And this is going to be an interesting episode because what I'm going to help you see is that how does your entire interview process look like, because what a lot of us starting our careers in data science think is that it's just going to be one interview and we are going to be done. So it's not like that. Let's dig deeper into what does a data science interview is all about. So there are 3 stages of what a typical data science interview looks like. The first one is the screening round. So in this round, essentially, say a job has been posted on LinkedIn, you applied for that particular role. So the HR calls you if they find your profile suitable. And let's say that the company is looking for a data scientist position and you meet the skill set. The HR will call you and they will screen you whether what you have written in your resume and what the company wants, if there is a good overlap between the two. If the HR feels that there is a good overlap between the two, right, then you'll be called for an interview day. On the interview day, what ends up happening is you don't directly go for a face-to-face interview, right? You might as well, but most top companies would not directly meet you for a face-to-face interview. You will be given a problem statement or a case study and a data science case study. And you will be given, let's say that you report for the interview at, let's say 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. You will be given, let's say 3 hours or 4 hours to solve that particular case study. And depending on whether you have gotten the final result, right, and whether there is evaluation, if for example you have been evaluated that this was a problem statement, this is how you have done. If you have done horribly bad, right, you would be asked that your interview is over. If you have done reasonably well, if you have done really well, right, you will be called for in-person interview after that, right? Now, a little twist to some of the interview process is that in a lot of interviews, you are not given a task on the day of the interview. You might be given a task before calling you for in-person round itself. That is, you'll be given an assignment to do at your home, and you'll be given, let's say, 24 hours to submit back that assignment. Right now, what I recommend is I recommend you to not take any assistance from any other person expert in the space, because in the end, even if you do the task by taking help from some other expert, you will most likely be figured out in the interview. So you would want to possibly read a little bit about the task on the internet if you need some help, but ideally I would recommend that take this as a screening process yourself. If you are not able to do that task, right, most likely you'll not be able to clear the interview, right? So you might get a home assignment as well, and you would usually get 24 hours to submit that assignment. And how well you have done on that particular data science task, then the company might decide to call you or might decide to drop you at that stage. Now, this is the second stage. So first stage was phone screen, second stage was a task, third stage is going to be an actual interview, right? And this is the third stage, but this is what a lot of candidates think is the only stage, but which is not the case. There are 2 other stages that I've already discussed. In the third stage, you're going to have an interview with your most likely the boss that you're going to be reporting to, who might be a senior data scientist, he might be a head of data science, he might be a chief data scientist, or he might be a data scientist itself in your team. If it totally depends on at what level of data science maturity the company is at, right? For example, if the company already has tens of data scientists working in, then you might be recruited first of all by a senior data scientist, and there might be another round of interview with the chief data scientist. Or sometimes what can also happen is that there might be your interview would be 1 round of interview only, right? So now let's see that what type of questions are asked, right? So If you have only one round of interview after you've submitted the task, then in that round, the focus is going to be on three things. First of all, on knowing you, because they are interested in knowing more about your profile, the kind of work that you have done. Secondly, they are going to be interested in your knowledge about data science overall, why you're in this field, what excites you, are you aware about the trends, and some of the questions regarding algorithms, etc., which is your favorite algorithm, and you might be asked more on that. And the third part of the interview is going to be focused on the task itself that you had submitted. Now, in some companies, what ends up happening is that because of the three parts to the interview ends up becoming very long. That's why you have two stages of interview, in which, let's say, a senior data scientist in the first round of interview focuses on the task part and sees your approach in the task, and that in itself might be a 30, 35 or 40-minute interview, wherein the interview might start with, for example, you did this task. First of all, what did you understand? What was the objective of the task? How did you approach it? What are the possible solutions you thought about? What kind of machine learning algorithm you applied? Which machine learning algorithm did you decide is the best fit? Can you give me some other example of how this problem could have been solved, etc.? So essentially, entire interview would be about task, and this is very, very common. It might take 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and sometimes it can run all the way up to 60 minutes. Now, if this task-based interview goes well, then you would have the next round of interview, which is focused more about your career, most about your profile, most about your fitment for the role. There would be questions about, have you researched about the company? Your typical standard interview questions, nothing dramatically different, but focused on your fitment for a data science role, right? But as I said, if the company does not want to focus too much on the task, both these interviews can also be merged into one. So this is the interview round. After that, you finally get your offer letter based on whether you have actually cracked the role or not. So it's a three-stage. So essentially, just to summarize, it's a three-stage interview process that you need to go through. You need to research about each one of these stages so that you're prepared for the phone screen, prepared for the task, what kind of tasks come. There are whole host of tasks that you can get. If you practice for these tasks, it may cracking these tasks becomes easier. And the interviews, as I said, I would possibly do a podcast on the kind of interview questions you should expect. This podcast was more about the process. Do listen to this episode that I would be doing soon on the kind of interview questions that you can expect in a data science interview, right? So that was the interview process of data science interviews. I hope you loved this episode. I had a great time sharing my insight about this. If you love this episode, leave your feedback, leave your comment. I'm always looking for ideas on topics that you would want podcasts to be made of. And if you loved this episode, make sure that you listen to another episode, and do share this episode with anyone that you know in your circle can benefit from some of these tips that I've shared in this interview, right? So thank you very much for watching this episode of Data Science and AI Weekly. My name is Manav. I'm signing off and look forward to see you